Welcome to Stop Ruining My Childhood, a podcast and channel that's a sometimes nostalgic, sometimes cynical look back at pop culture. Join us as we look at movies, television, and cartoons and ask, does this hold up? Or did I just ruin my childhood? As always, I'm Steve, flying solo today without Megan, as these quick good, bad, ugly reviews are my own little project. And today we're looking at the first episode of Lanterns on HBO Max. As you can see, I'm in Green Lantern attire and wearing a mask because someone should be, and apparently it's not going to be anyone in the actual show. So I've been waiting for this premiere for at least 6 months now, and I made Megan stay up and watch it Sunday night when it first hit streaming on HBO Max. I've been a comic book fan since 1986. I remember my first comics were Chris Claremont's work on the Mutant Massacre storyline in X Men, X Factor, and Power Pack. Wow, that's a deep cut. If you remember Power Pack, comment below and let me know. But I quickly began reading DC as well, and I've been a Green Lantern fan for most of that time. So I've really been waiting for this show to premiere on HBO since it was really announced, but definitely since I saw the casting. So Lanterns episode 1 is an hour long, and for this video, I'm just going to hit on some good, some bad, and some ugly things about the episode. In October, once the series is aired, Megan and I will be reviewing Lanterns, the series, on the podcast, and then we're going to be comparing it to the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, which we also reviewed, as our current season is all about remakes, reboots, and sequels. So subscribe and follow to make sure that you get those when they come out later. But for now, let's jump into my quick down and dirty review. Let's start with the good. The first good thing that I got out of this was the bare bones. To be honest, since I'd even heard this, I was kind of hopeful. And part of that was because of the cast and because of the premise of the show from what I'd understood. Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre look like Hal and John. Hal Jordan, John Stewart, if I were to think of fan casting, these two would definitely be in the mix. And I think that they were good casting for who they're supposed to be portraying. I think they have a lot of potential here. Unfortunately, I think the writing has not lived up to that potential, and it hasn't done them any favors. The premise of space cops investigating a possible alien incident on Earth is also great. When I heard that this was going to be kind of created and show run by the guy who did True Detective, I was really excited because anyone who's followed Green Lantern knows that the Green Lantern Corps are just that. They're space police. Their whole purpose is that they're divided in that the galaxy is divided into sectors. Each one has a Green Lantern that oversees it and kind of deals with big picture alien issues within that sector. And so this really made a lot of sense to have kind of a buddy cop, Kyle, Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and I kind of already got the feeling from previews that it was going to be Hal kind of training John. That's fine, right? Canonically in the comics, Hal was Green Lantern first, and then John Stewart came on board, right? Um, and so that makes sense to me as well. And I was kind of excited about that piece too. The other good thing here was the visual effects. In the few instances that Hal Jordan does use his ring in this first episode, the effects of the constructs actually look good. Whether he's making fake money, a bottle cap opener, or a shield to actually protect people, I like the effects. I wish there was more of them, to be honest. I wish he kind of flew more. The one instance where it does show him fly looked good. Green Lantern in the comics flies all the time. And it seems lazy to put him in a beat up car or walking down the road. I know that these uninformed showrunners thought that because he had John with him, he would be driving or he would be, walking or taking normal means of transportation. But that's just not true. And if you've read Green Lantern comics or even seen Green Lantern in any of the DC animated shows or movies, you know that Hal Jordan could easily fly both of them places. Many times in the comics, Green Lantern has created a bubble and carried dozens of people through the air and flown with them with no problem. Not just from place to place on Earth, he's flown members of the Justice League through space in a bubble. That's something that's easily done by his ring, especially because his ring is powered by his will, and Hal Jordan has a strong will. So that's not an issue, and it could have easily been done here, and it actually would have been really cool because it would have given more visual effects to this story. I know they were looking for kind of a copish, grounded mystery premise and feel to this show, but you can't cut out what makes Green Lantern, and that's his ring. In having it used for, these small little, you know, I don't know, street magic looking things like creating a fake $20 bill to put into a jukebox, or creating a bottle opener to open a beer bottle. That seems like really tiny small potatoes, and it seems like what it felt like to me was that you had writers who don't know Green Lantern, who don't care about comics. They were just trying to placate comic book fans by saying, "Oh, look, he used his ring." He should be using he's defined by his ring, and to be cutting that out is really an issue. But I did like the effects, so again, we're staying with the good right now. um, but that does bring up a few things, so let's move into the bad. While this is on the top of my mind, let's move into the bad. And the first bad thing that I had here, in my notes, was this is not how the ring works. I will say it again for the cheap seats in the writer's room. This is not how the ring works. There's a scene in this episode early on where Hal leaves John Stewart his ring and then tries to get him to use it. They're driving down the road and he's talking about how John Stewart hasn't been able to fly yet with the ring. So he leaves it in the car, jumps out of the moving car, and lets it go over a cliff, forcing John Stewart to put the ring on and create a construct to kind of save himself. We learn later it's bubble wrap, which again seems a little ridiculous when you're dealing with a ring that can kind of make anything, but okay. But this is not how it works. All right, it doesn't take much research at all or reading comics at all for Green Lantern to know that this is not how the ring works. When Green Lantern dies, their ring is designed to seek out the nearest life form that has the willpower and the qualifications to be the next bearer of the ring. Then they become a lantern. The ring only works for the one that the ring chooses. Then they get trained. Once they have the ring and they become a lantern, then they're trained. The idea that the Guardians would like interview or choose someone and then have them shadow a Green Lantern is stupid and lazy. It's written by people who didn't have the motivation to do basic research. This is a core foundational lore to the comic books and to the franchise. And it would be a much better show if both men had rings and Hal was teaching John how to use his to the best of his ability. Right? Now you have a ring, you're a lantern, this is how you act. This is how you use it. This is how you don't use it, right? Or how you control your power against people who don't have the same level of power as you do. That would have been a much better training montage and a much better premise to build it around while they were investigating an incident of alien activity. That makes sense. Say what you will about the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, and I know it's been kind of a joke in some circles. I know even Ryan Reynolds in some of the Deadpool movies has made little jokes and pokes about the Green Lantern film because it was sort of a flop, in most people's minds. But at least they got this right. This foundational piece of the ring lore they had right in that movie. There's a scene in that Green Lantern movie where Hal Jordan has to give over the ring to Hector, who's one of the villains. He's kind of been possessed by Parallax, and he gives Hector the ring in exchange for his girlfriend not being injured, right? And Hector takes the ring and then tries to use it against him, and he can't. And Hal says, "That's what you didn't get, Hector. Like it's not just having the ring, right? The ring only works for the person it chooses." And he's able to basically he's basically able to call the ring back to him out of Hector's hand and use it again. It doesn't matter whether he's wearing it or not, he always has a connection to the ring. And that's just basic Green Lantern lore. It's how it works, and it's the foundation to how the entire character was built, as well as the succeeding Green Lanterns and the entire core. And to move away from that because you're just too lazy to do some basic research and read a couple comics is really it really kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, this, so it's really not Green Lantern. This is some cops who know about aliens and have some rings that can do some street magic level tricks. I really didn't care for this. The other bad piece that I didn't like here was the time jumps. I hate that we're looking at three different time periods in this one episode. We're looking at 1996, 2016, and 2026. Just because the show was written by the people that made True Detective doesn't mean you have to copy the template exactly. There's no need for it, right? True Detective was kind of famous for looking at multiple time periods, right? The same, especially the first season, right? You're looking at the characters through a multiple year break. You're looking at them at the beginning of kind of their partnership, and then after they've both moved on and they get roped back into the same kind of case they dealt with, right? So you're looking at them at two different areas of their life. Um, there's no need to do that here, and it's kind of admitting as writers that you think that the format that led to your former success wasn't your actual writing ability, but it was more just the way you did it. And I got to be honest, the more I see here, the more I agree. Maybe it wasn't your writing ability because I was not impressed by what I saw here, especially since you didn't have to make this up. You were given lore to work with. All right, so now let's get to the ugly. The first and obvious ugly that I did not like here was Dead Hal Jordan. All right, I had heard the rumors leading up to the debut of this show that they were going to kill Hal Jordan off in the first episode. But to be honest, I didn't actually believe it because I thought to myself, they can't be that stupid to kill off the greatest Green Lantern at the beginning just to indulge an obviously incompetent writer's room. Even Hollywood can't be that self sabotaging, right? You surprised me again, Hollywood, so my hat's off to you. Or my mask is off to you since no one else is wearing a mask. Uh, Now, I will say that after watching the end scene again, I think that the smart move here would be for this not to be Hal Jordan, and I'm hoping and I'm believing that it's not. I think this is a shapeshifter that's taken his form and was shot in the head. This isn't just hopeful thinking. As I watch the scene again, a detailed look at the scene, you'll see that while John Stewart has aged visibly, it's been 10 years, and he's added his kind of notable goatee from some of the comics and from like the Justice League cartoon and the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. Um, he's also wearing newer clothing, more updated clothes, right? You can tell time has passed. The body of Hal Jordan looks the same and is wearing the same clothes that he had on 10 years ago when he was last in this town. So it's not like you're seeing an aged, killed Hal Jordan. You're looking at more of a reproduction of the last time Hal was here than actual Hal Jordan. Now, either I'm right on this or the production crew here was really bad at their job and they just didn't have the motivation or ability to make it look like how Jordan is different and older. But I can't imagine they'd be that incompetent. So that also makes sense here for when John Stewart reaches down and looks at his hand and not notices that there's no ring, right? I don't know if we're supposed to think that someone took it. Again, that doesn't work that way. If Hal had actually died, the ring should have found a new bearer, and the Guardians would have been informed that there's a new lantern. My assumption is that John Stewart already has his own ring here. It's been 10 years. If John Stewart does not have his own ring at this point, then they have written him as the slowest and dumbest character ever. He's been in training for 10 years to get a ring. Like, he shouldn't be a lantern if he's that mentally slow. So, my assumption is he's wearing a ring at this point, and he's coming to investigate because the sheriff called and said, we found Hal Jordan dead here. That would you know so that's what I'm looking at here, and I'm not only hoping, but it just seems like the clues are laid down here. So hopefully that's what this is, right? This is a manhunter or some sort of other alien. We know Martians can transform, that can shapeshift, and maybe it was left as a message, or maybe it was someone thought it was somebody, an alien had taken Hal Jordan's shape, and someone thinking it was Hal Jordan shot him. Those are options as well, but we'll see. Maybe they'll let us know in the next episode. My thought is they're probably going to keep us strung along until the last episode, and then you're going to find out that this was not Hal Jordan. That would be kind of dumb because again, it only took me a second watching to really pay attention and see these things and say, yeah, this doesn't look like it could really be Hal Jordan. So lastly, I have to hit, I guess, one more ugly thing. I wasn't sure if I was going to hit on this or not, but I will. One of the opening scenes, when you have, I really hated the fact that you had what should really be a CPS call here on young John Stewart. They have a scene where John Stewart's father comes home, and yes, he's a military man. We know John Stewart was Marines, right? It's part of what makes him who he is. The fact that he has no fear, which you have to not be able to have fear to be a Green Lantern, or not have fear, but you have to have the ability to overcome fear to be a Green Lantern. So it makes him kind of who he is. But here they have his dad taking him outside, putting an apple on his head, and shooting it off with a pistol. Like, this is completely unhinged. And even in 1996, this would have been a police call. All right, no one in they don't live in the middle of nowhere. They're in a neighborhood, and no one sees this guy shooting at his son against the garage. Um, I don't know why the writers felt the need to put this in here. There's a number of other ways that you could have shown that he was raised to be tough, raised to not be afraid. Um, More so, maybe they should have shown his father being a military man that taught his sons to be brave instead of taught his sons to ignore obvious abuse and threats to their lives from their father. But this was a terrible scene. And I think, to be honest, whatever writer is in your writer room that came up with this idea, fire them. They should not be writing for movies, for TV, for anything. They should not be writing letters to pen pals in another country. All right? There's nothing that these people should be doing. They should not be teaching community college writing courses because they're not good at their job. This is a terrible idea, and you should not be putting it into anything. Um, and if it was something that was a self insert, then they really need to go to probably 20 to 30 years of therapy because this is not a good spot. And I really hated this. So those are the really two ugly: Dead Hal Jordan and young John Stewart being shot at by his father. I thought those were terrible choices, and it really could make or break the series. And it's going to break it if there's not a way around this, or there's not a way to kind of redeem his father at least a little bit. Even if you want us to be like, yeah, his dad was a son of a bitch, you can show that without making him a threat to his children's lives. That's just so dumb, right? Pistols, especially at that distance, are not always that accurate, and he easily could have put a bullet in his kid's skull. This was not a smart move, and again, it's written by someone who has no understanding of firearms and no understanding of military culture. Are not, you know, Military people are not people who disregard weapons. If anything, people who've been trained in the military, and I am a vet myself, all right, have more respect and utilize more safety around firearms because they know how dangerous they are. And this is not something that someone in the military would have done. Again, your writers need to do some more research or don't write about what they don't know because they're not smart enough to do it. So keep that in mind as well. You know what? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. I would really like to hear your thoughts on the first episode of Lanterns. Did it meet your expectations? Are you looking forward to the next episode? I'm going to watch the next episode. I'm hoping it gets better. And like I said, there was some pieces to it that I did like, and I think there's some potential, but it needs a quick turnaround here, and I'm not sure if it's going to get it. Like and subscribe this channel for more videos on movies, TV, and cartoons from our childhood, as well as the remakes, reboots, and sequels that may have ruined it. As always, I'm Steve, and remember, nostalgia is not a crime.